Meeting with the Casper Star-Tribune Editorial Board with us today. We're going to just jump right into it. What do you consider to be the most important part of the Secretary of State job?
There are four parts, Adrian, that are very important to me. First of all is transparency in the office. I think that in terms of the boards and the commissions upon which I will be sitting, it's important to have understanding from the public that will enable the investments that I advocate for understood and bought into so that we can continue to move our state forward. On the business side, we must have a business-friendly office, and that's where my expertise as a businessman comes in. During the last 25, 30 years, I've been working hard owning and operating my own businesses. And so I know the perspective that we need in government. In other words, I've experienced firsthand what constitutes good government, what constitutes bad government. And I will take the perspective that I have as a business owner, advocating for and being a champion for small business in this state. The third very important aspect of this office is elections. And this is an area where it's near and dear to my heart. As I travel around the state and meet with all the commissioners, I'm learning the unique perspectives in every county. I've had an opportunity to meet with Clerk Vigo and the clerks throughout the state. And they're the ground central. They're the generals, if you will, of administering the elections throughout the state. And it's important that we have maintained the integrity of our election system and then also shoot as a goal for substantial voter increase. And I have plans to do that I hope we get into. And then the fourth pillar of my platform has to do with family. And I'm a family man. The reason why I'm running for office is to make sure that Wyoming can remain a place for our children and our grandchildren to call Wyoming their home and to choose to live here with good paying jobs, quality of life, the workforce necessary to enable our state to go forward for generations yet unborn.
Okay. Getting right back to your last answer, talk specifically about your plans to increase voting in Wyoming.
With respect to voting increase, I'm looking to facilitate access. And so in these regards, there are technologies that I'm exploring right now. And as I indicated in visiting with all the different clerks, it's a county by county basis. For example, in Natrona County here, the concept of voting centers or the usage of what's known as e-poll books is something that I've discussed with Clerk Vito. And this would enable, in terms of the accessibility, someone, for example, living in Midwest but working here in Casper, to go to a voting center or any precinct for that matter and have the opportunity to vote without the necessity of returning to Midwest. It's a county by county evaluation, and I'm a local government guy. If there's anyone in this race that is an advocate for local government, and local control and investment in our local communities, that would be me.
Speaking about that, there are, you have competition. There are a lot of candidates out there, no question. We've read a lot about it. How do you differentiate yourself to the voters from all the other candidates out there?
First and foremost, my extensive background in business. I have started my businesses from the ground up, literally starting with a used pickup truck and a prayer. And very much a leap of faith. When I went out and started my first company, I had a young wife. We had one child, another on the way. It's very much a leap of faith. And it's hard to put the dots together at that time. In retrospect, being 56 years old now, and after having been in business for 25 or 30 years, what I've been able to accomplish was unimaginable as a young man in terms of building communities, providing hundreds, if not thousands, of home and housing opportunities, hundreds of jobs, enabling good things to happen. We're passionate about education. We've been involved in the construction of a new high school, schools, have endowed several educational scholarships, things that simply would not have happened otherwise. And that is one of the principal backgrounds that I have that no other candidate in this office can offer. Number two, when I say I'm a family man, not only is that about a nuclear family, and I've been married for 28 years, I've raised 4 daughters, and so during that period of time I've learned something about listening. And I'm talking about family man in terms of our Wyoming community, our state of Wyoming. And so the old adage you've heard that Wyoming is a town with long roads, it's so true. And as we've traveled the 22,000 miles, I've been listening. I've been doing more listening than talking. And that is why I am confident that I will be the candidate that will be for local government. Because what I'm hearing, we don't have that advocacy. My opponents, it's going to boil down to my private business experience, someone new, someone fresh, someone with great ideas, and someone who can respond to the needs of the local communities versus the same old political way of doing things. And that's the other thing that distinguishes me substantially from my opponents. I might add the third thing is that I have big ideas, bold ideas. As I've been out on the campaign trail, I guess, how do they say, copying is the greatest form of flattery. So the messages that I started out with 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, I'm now hearing from the other opponents, that we need to reinvest more Wyoming wealth. These are things that were my platform from the get-go. And so it's a message that's resonating and one I'm very proud of, and yet it's originated with Ed Murray.
Switching gears a little bit, obviously part of this job would be membership on the State Loan and Investment Board. Are you following the work of SLIB right now? And the second part of that would be talk about some things that they've done recently that you approve of or disapprove of, and how you treat that role.
Yeah, thank you. The role on the SLIB board is one of the more important roles that the Secretary of State can do. And yes, I've been following the SLIB work very, very carefully. And I'm exploring ideas because what I'm hearing as I go out and on this listening campaign is that communities are being pitted against the other. There's not enough money to go around on the SLIB board, and so a large percentage of SLIB applications for grants and or loans are not being met. And so there's, in my opinion, room to create a strategy that is for the benefit of all Wyoming communities that I don't see right now. There are many, many good things with the SLIB board, but it's taken the place of predictability and funding sources that are no longer there, that the local governments feel handcuffed and feel strangled in many ways. And so I can tell you that the work of the SLIB board, both through the Wyoming Business Council and the 7 other sources, whether it be the federal mineral royalties, clean water, drinking water, the emergency funds, these different sources of revenues are good, but we can do much better in helping our state through the SLIB board.
More along those lines, talk about that specifically. Is there anything that the SLIB board has done recently that you've kind of thought, well, they really got it right there, or on the other hand, where there was a project that got funded or something that they did where you're like, man, that just didn't work out the way that it should have? Anything recent specifically come to mind?
Well, recently, there are 16 projects funded at the latest SLIB board, and all of those are good. We have many positives. What bothers me is, and it gets back to what I was talking about earlier, is there's much greater room for transparency in how these projects are funded and communicated to the public. Because right now there are things that have happened recently that have left a sour taste and in many ways have politicized the process. In your own community, Casper, with the application back in February or April that had to do with funding of the infrastructure for a new convention center, I think that got discombobulated in a way that makes people wonder, what's going on here? The Magpole situation down in Cheyenne, that's another example of a SLIB-funded project through the Wyoming Business Council that has been misunderstood and or miscommunicated. And I have problems with the transparency and the clarity with which the strategies for these SLIB-funded projects proceed. And that's very critical to the future of this state in terms of being able to invest with the public support.
Okay. A little bit more about SLIB. If you do a loan to a business that includes a recapture provision, where should that money go and why?
For your viewing audience, let's talk about this a little bit. My understanding is that a loan, and you said if you did a loan with a recapture provision, the loan would be, the recapture on a loan would be the interest payback. But let's talk about grants, because that's where the real issue is on whether or not there's recapture or not. And there are issues here. There's a legislative push, and this is something that it comes from listening across the state, that the legislature wants the recapture to go back to the state. Now, collectively, I've been trying to get my arms around the numbers. It's a substantial amount of money of existing recapture out there. We're talking upwards of $200+ million that is presently in local governments that is the subject of going back to the state. I'm opposed to that categorically. That money was applied for by the local communities for various projects, and it was contemplated in those applications and so forth that the terms and conditions were what they were. And so the prospect of being accountable for retrospective recapture is not compatible with good business and trust in the state. And quite frankly, the local governments local communities who have invested these monies for everything from senior housing to landfill issues to Main Street beautification, whatever is unique to their own communities, purely infrastructure, water, sewer, street matters. These are monies that should remain with the local communities, and it's entirely consistent with sound, conservative business principles to invest in ourselves. And so I am a proponent of leaving that recapture money with the local towns and cities and communities.
Besides SLIB, as Secretary of State, you'd have the opportunity to sit on some other powerful groups. What do you think is the most important role that you play on a group other than SLIB?
Well, we have the Land Commission, an incredibly important board, the Board of Land Commissioners. We have the Building Commission. Both of these boards need sound, solid leadership. They need an experienced businessman with that perspective, especially on that Building Commission. I mean, I know the difference between a half-baked project or something that's going to be beneficial with the future in mind. And so my input on these other boards and commissions would be invaluable. With respect to the Land Commission, Adrian, I'm an outdoorsman. There's nothing that fills my heart more than being in God's country. And that's what Wyoming is, God's country. We're only the stewards. And so my role on the Land Commission would be to advocate as a steward of this great properties with which we're entrusted. We're entrusted with over 3.5 million surface acres and 3.9 million mineral acres. And these are enormous responsibilities that necessitate a careful balance to facilitate and foster that energy basis of our economy, combined with the outdoor resources that we have for outdoorsmen and women who enjoy hunting and fishing and communing with Mother Nature.
You mentioned earlier that you're a businessman, and you've been a businessman for years in the state. What are you going to do with those businesses if you're elected to Secretary of State?
My businesses are mature. I have projects that I can do tomorrow if I wanted to, or I could hold off. This is a commitment. One of the things that in my background, my personal makeup is commitment, whether it's in my home, in my marriage, in my communities, and I will take that commitment to the office of Secretary of State. And thankfully, I'm in a position where I can do that. I consider it a blessing to have the opportunity to make that commitment. This is a cause for service, not a cause for a job. I'm not interested in the next election. I'm interested in the next generation.
Talking about the next job, do you want to be governor someday?
Do I want to be governor someday? You better not enter into the office of Secretary of State without contemplating the possibility that a vacancy could occur. I'm not running for governor. I'm running for Secretary of State, and that's my focus, and it's a wonderful office in terms of my skill set, and as I believe our founding fathers contemplated, we're all called at some point to serve in a manner where our capacities can best serve the people, and the office of Secretary of State with the business side, the election sides, and those important boards are the reason I'm running for Secretary of State.
During this campaign, as you're running for Secretary of State, you've been very visible. Commercials, paid consultants. Some have said and accused you of perhaps trying to buy the election with your ads and such a large staff. How would you respond to those charges?
They're unfortunate. The thing that I have heard repeatedly from people is that's what politicians do. You know, when I started my campaign, I approached this in the same manner that I would any business, any project, and I assembled the best team possible and am doing the best job I can in terms of spreading our message. It's a positive message. It's one about the future of Wyoming and providing for our children and our grandchildren, generations yet on board. And it's about a new, fresh perspective. And so the opponents who are accusing me of trying to buy the campaign, you know, just like the code of the West, some things aren't for sale, and people are insulted. That would be, do you think your vote could be bought? Mandy, do you think your vote could be bought? Sal, could your vote be bought? Adrian, the key is that your votes can't be bought. Wyoming people are insulted by that accusation.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions, anything to add? Let you close out here with a closing statement and tell our audience why you.
Thank you, Adrian, and the Casper Star and the rest of the members of this editorial board. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to share our message. It's a good message, one of freedom, freedom to pursue your dreams, freedom from unnecessary rules and regulations. The reason I'm running, the reason Ed Murray is running is because I believe that all of Wyoming should be able to prosper in the way that I've been able to prosper, and that our children and grandchildren and generations yet unborn should have the freedom to pursue their dreams. I can take that perspective, I can take that vision to this office, and I will work tirelessly to help and serve the state of Wyoming. I've traveled over 22,000 miles in this great state so far, reaching out to every corner, to every person I can meet. And this is the greatest state certainly in the United States, and the greatest place in the nation. And I will continue to be an ambassador and advocate for this great state. We have a bright future ahead of us, but we need new leadership. And so I would ask for your support. I would ask for your friendship. And as we continue down this campaign, please vote for Ed Murray. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Murray, for your time today.
Okay. Thank you.